Forbes, Oral Communications 111. Imagine that you're going through your daily routine and all of a sudden you feel the ground moving. You probably didn't expect that and probably didn't even realize that you were just in an earthquake. On August 23rd, 2011, Maryland and Virginia was hit with a 5.8 magnitude earthquake. Fortunately, that earthquake that this area experienced did not create a lot of damage. However, that's not to say that the natural disasters are not to be taken lightly. I experienced the earthquake in Maryland on August 23rd. I was in my office at the time when it happened and didn't really understand what was going on at the time until everyone started rushing out of the office and taking cover. In addition to the earthquake I was in last year, I was in a few hurricanes growing up as a child in Louisiana. The most serious hurricane that I was in recently was Hurricane Katrina. I was vacationing in Fort Lauderdale and Key West, Florida at the time when Hurricane Katrina hit Florida. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared at all for any of these natural disasters, but fortunately neither myself nor my family didn't get hurt during any of these events. Across the U.S., everyone has experienced some sort of natural disaster such as a tornado or hurricane or earthquake. First, I'll describe the causes of all three types of natural disasters. Second, I'll discuss and explain how to possibly prepare for these natural disasters. And third, I will discuss the damages and aftermaths of the tornado, hurricane, and earthquake. Tornado conditions are caused when different temperatures and humidity meet from thunderclouds. Described on the Forces of Nature website, when this occurs, the cold air on the top begins to sink, sending the rising warm air wind spiraling upward, with the winds rotate faster and faster in the high column. When the updraft is strong, the column can rise to heights of 10 miles or twisting at speeds of more than 100 miles an hour. The rotating winds produce strong storm clouds about 7,000 feet high, sometimes spreading 10 miles wide. Another natural disaster is a hurricane. The two essential ingredients in every hurricane are warm water and moist air. Warm, moist air. Hurricanes have a few different stages that have to take place before they become a named hurricane. First they become a tropical depression, then they become a tropical storm, and then finally they become a hurricane. In addition to the tornado and hurricane, the last natural disaster that I'll be explaining is the earthquake. Per the U.S. Geological Survey website, an earthquake is what happens when two blocks of the earth suddenly slip past one another, and the surface where they slip is called the fault, or the fault plane. The location below the Earth's surface where the earthquake is called the hypocenter, and the location directly above it on the surface of the Earth is called the epicenter. These are the three natural disasters that I just spoke about: the tornado, the hurricane, and the earthquake. After reviewing these causes of these natural disasters, we will look into how to possibly prepare for these natural disasters. You'll want to disaster-proof your home, such as securing any large appliances, making sure all remedial repairs are made, and make sure large objects are close to the ground. I remember growing up as a kid in Louisiana, whenever we would get a hurricane warnings, we would typically board up all the windows and put sandbags in front of the doors to hopefully block out any of the floodwaters. You'll also want to create a disaster supplies kit, such as keeping battery-operated tools and equipment, and an extra pair of clothes and some personal care items. You will need to create an emergency plan as well. A few other things for the emergency plan is to draw a floor plan, the best route to get out of the house in case of an emergency, and make sure everyone knows how to dial 911. Pick a meeting place and to make sure have a first aid kit. Again, as a kid, I remember if we thought that a hurricane was going to be a large hurricane, we would try to drive away from it to Mississippi to hopefully avoid the hurricane altogether. Sometimes that worked out, but sometimes the hurricane would change directions and we would head towards Mississippi, and we would have to head back to Louisiana. Again, these are the three different stages, or three different things that you might want to do to prepare for a hurricane. Disaster-proof your home, create a disaster supply kit, and create an emergency plan. Even though we can try to do our due diligence to prepare for these natural disasters, to try to avoid them, there is always damage and aftermath that will need to be taken care of after a natural disaster. Typically, tornadoes hit the middle part of the U.S., destroying homes. After the aftermath, people are left stranded, and if they have lost homes and their lives are uprooted. Hurricanes typically hit Florida in the Gulf area of the U.S., causing flooding of these regions due to most of these areas being below sea level. Again, after this type of natural disaster, many people have the potential of losing their livelihoods, from losing their homes, and their cars are being flooded out. Earthquakes hit the California region of the United States. Fortunately, large earthquakes don't happen as often as tornadoes and hurricanes, but when they do cause a lot of structural damage to a lot of houses. People across the U.S. will at some point in time go through a natural disaster. These natural disasters cannot be avoided, and are really unexpected. However, there are some ways to prepare for these natural disasters to minimize any damage. But even with all the preparation in the world, there are certain damages that will have to be taking place. One beauty in all the natural disasters, we do get to see communities get together and try to help each other out by coming together and cleaning up the aftermath of a natural disaster. And this is the aftermath of the natural disasters. We have a tornado aftermath, a hurricane aftermath, and an earthquake aftermath. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the speech, the earthquake in Maryland that happened on August 23rd of 2000, we had our own aftermath, where we had lost a chair in the aftermath, and luckily we were able to rebuild from that. So again, Dan Forbes, thanks for letting me.